My friends slash coworkers are mocking my wife and our arranged marriage. Not sure how to address or deal with this. We have a 28 male OP, a 22 female wife, and around 20s male slash female coworkers. Damn, 22 and you're already in an arranged marriage? That sounds a little bit like it could be a yikes, but let's just see where this goes. Original post, November 15th, 2015. My wife and I have been married for close to a year now. She was born and raised in India her entire life, while I've been raised here in America since I was 4 years old. So 21 and 27. I'm 27. I can't imagine getting married to a 21-year-old. I know it's not illegal, but I don't think that should be a thing. As you all saw in the title, this was an arranged marriage, and I met her around 2 weeks before the wedding. Despite not knowing each other for a longer period of time, we have grown very close and I care for her deeply. That sounds like nightmare fuel, chat. Call me an asshole. Absolutely fucking not. Meeting someone 2 weeks before legally being married to them for the rest of your life and that age gap is just, My main group of friends, however, many whom I've known since college, have joked and made fun of our marriage and my wife. For example, we were at a dinner party a couple months and my friends were talking about something. My wife then commented, but because she has a pretty pronounced Indian accent, she butchered a few words and everyone laughed and began to impersonate and make fun of her. Okay, that isn't okay. That's kind of more of like a racism thing. I could see how much this hurt her, and for the rest of the night she was silent and later on asked to leave early. This was the only time this occurred in front of her, but many times when I've gone out with my buddies, they casually make fun of her accent or her confusion when it comes to American traditions and customs. And every time I tell them enough, they say, "I'm just joking, man, chill out," or "Don't take it so seriously." Aside from the arranged marriage and the questionable age gap, this is also not okay. Definitely racist. This is your wife, so her feelings should come before these friends. I'm shocked you haven't cut them off by now. Or you need to be more aggressive about, "I'm just joking, man." No, that's not joking when you're making her feel bad, and it's racist. Call them out on this shit, bro. In addition, there's been a few times when I've gone out or talked with coworkers, and when they begin to talk about or complain about their relationships and I chime in, they basically ignore or make snide remarks regarding what I have to say. I specifically remember one time where a coworker said, "What do you know about marriage? Yours is not even an actual marriage." Okay, that's also uncalled for. Like, listen, I'm not a fan of arranged marriages, but if that's what you're gonna do, like, I'm gonna let you do your shit. But to like talk shit about it and call it not a real marriage, that's fucked up. Cause like, it could work. It has worked for some people. Am I pro arranged marriage? No. Do I think that most of them are probably not sunshines and rainbows? Yeah. But still, like, a marriage is a marriage. He should be able to relate with people who are married, and for them to shun it and say that it's not a marriage is just kind of fucking mean. And honestly too, I'm guessing OP is also Indian. I do think this does stem more from racism out of anything. I suppose I'm asking for help on how to deal with these sorts of comments, as I'm sure more will come throughout my marriage. My wife is naturally very shy, so I know she won't try and defend herself when shit like this happens. She hasn't been able to make any friends since coming here and refuses to come out with me because of my friends. I know she feels homesick at times, and I really want to help her come out of her shell because she's a wonderful person, and her happiness is extremely important to me. So I suppose I have two questions. How can I deal with my friends and coworkers? And how do I help my wife gain more confidence and come out of her shell? I mean, I think the answer is you stop hanging out with your friends and coworkers. Are they actually your friends if they're not making your wife feel welcoming and they're actively being racist to her? No. At this point, if your coworkers are saying that you're not in an actual marriage, that's a self-respect thing, dog. You need to step up and be like, "No, it's an actual marriage. You're fucked up for saying that. It's high-key racist." And then just stop hanging out with them outside of work. I think the answer here is you and your wife need to find a friend group that is more accepting of you guys and that makes your wife feel more comfortable, because right now she's uncomfortable around your friends, which huge stretch calling them friends, by the way. Like, no friends would prey on your relationship downfall that hard. I don't think there's much else to say here. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm questioning the ethics of the marriage in general, but I don't think that's the topic here. I'm trying to isolate that. Y'all already know how I feel about it, but assuming that nothing predatory is happening, which I think there's a possibility for that, chat. I don't want to demonize every younger relationship. I think there's certain scenarios where it works, but I would say stereotypically, this is not something that a normal 27-year-old should do. Marry someone who's 21. Haven't marriages been arranged for most of history? I mean, yeah, but I mean, I don't think that means that it's a good thing, because most of the time people are arranging marriages because they look at daughters as property, and usually they're trading their daughters for other forms of property, and usually underage. Relevant comments. Someone kind of quoted OP with, "How can I deal with my friends and coworkers?" Responding with, "Firmly but politely." For the "I'm I'm just joking, man, chill out. OP should respond, you might be joking, but I am not. For the don't take it so seriously, OP should respond, that is my wife you're talking about, and I am taking it seriously. 100%, bro. Big dick energy right there. And how do I help my wife gain more confidence and come out of her shell? The commenter says, are there any interests your wife has, and are there any clubs in your area that correspond to her interests? Are there Indian communities in your area? Also, you might want to do a fun activity together, like dancing, assuming she likes to dance, or go swimming or cycling together. Preferably something outdoorsy. OOP responded to that. Yes, in fact, there's one Indian community / club she has been interested in joining. I'm hoping she feels a bit more at home there and she really likes cycling. I think that's an excellent idea. Thank you. Another commenter said, I have to agree, your friends sound like assholes. Have they ever met or known anyone for whom English is a second language? Have they never traveled to a country they didn't know the language? I'm horrified they'd mock her accent. If you want to remain friends with them, then you're going to have to shut down those comments. For the, I was joking, answer, it's not a joke, it's very rude and harmful. For the, your marriage isn't real, answer, that's a rude comment. Why would you say something like that? Your friends seem unable to accept cultures and customs different from their own. OOP responded, I know this may sound weird, but this is the way they've always been. We've always joked around about race and other stupid shit like that, and I never really took it seriously. I've only really started seeing how bad it is now that I see the way it affects my wife. There's a way to joke around about race that is tasteful. Like, don't get me wrong, y'all. Like, me and my friends make Asian jokes all the time. And like, if they're of a certain race too, we'll make jokes all the time. But there's a tasteful way to do that, and this was not tasteful. This was them being just straight up racist to your wife, who clearly is not okay with those jokes. My guy, I think the answer here is just have some fucking balls to stand up for your wife that you married. I know that it's an arranged marriage and like you claim to care for her deeply, but if you truly care for her deeply, you take her side over your friend's side every single fucking day. And if you don't, you're a coward. Okay, and then the top comment is basically someone saying that they need new friends, which I've said that and I agree. Here's the thing, lesbian wolf. I know you're lesbian. Like, I'm sure you and your gay friends make jokes to each other about being gay. As long as it's not outwardly hateful, I think you can be. But at a certain point, you cross a line. And that line, if someone crosses the line, you should call them out. If the other person doesn't laugh, you're bullying, you're not joking. Exactly. I mean, sometimes I want to make Asian jokes at Ben. See Asian Fury and I accept them because you're also Asian. And it's different. It's context, right? Like, because I know Asian Fury is Asian, if Asian Fury makes an Asian joke, it's also a quip at themselves. If one of my friends makes an Asian joke, I know it's a joke because I have a long-standing relationship with them. But if you're just going around making racist jokes to the first person you meet, that's a fucking crazy way to live your life. I want to read this update. Did bro nut the fuck up or what? Update November 17th, 2015, 2 days later. After reading through the comments on my previous post, it really surprised me and shocked me how many people thought my friends were racists, bigots, or assholes. It struck a chord deep in me with how many outsiders had such a different perspective on the issue, where I thought I wasn't being firm enough and my friends were just ignorant in terms of ramifications of their actions. Whereas the vast majority of commentators thought that they were just plain assholes and racists. I guess I was hoping if I was simply firm in my resolve and told them in no uncertain terms if their disrespectful behavior were to continue, we would no longer continue socializing. They would see the error in their ways and hopefully apologize to my wife. So yesterday, I asked them if we could all meet up to discuss something important, and after work, we all went for drinks. Once we started talking, I told them how disrespectful they were being towards my wife and I, and addressed how much it hurt my wife to be made fun of just because of her accent and ignorance when it comes to American customs. I continued by saying that I understand we usually joke about these sorts of topics, such as race, but that I now realized how wrong it was, and it all needed to stop. They did not take me seriously at all. Immediately, everyone began commenting on how much of a bitch I'd become since getting married, and I was always so prissy and sensitive about shit we used to laugh about all the time. They continued by saying I never enjoyed myself anymore and how I basically abandoned our group because I was always spending time with my wife. I was constantly trying to respond or defend myself, but the fuckers kept interrupting me and wouldn't let me say anything. They also said I stopped partying like I used to. Like, what the fuck? Sorry, I'm not interested in getting shit-faced at the club every Friday night. We're not in college anymore. Then one of the guys says, are you being all uptight because you're not getting laid anymore? I'm surprised, man. If my wife was as hot as my wife's name, I'd be banging the shit out of her every day. Bro. The next sentence should be, and then I punched him in the face until he bled profusely. Like, what? Then all of them fucking laughed like he'd made a hilarious joke instead of being a massive douchebag. After that, I was done with them and told them that I no longer wanted to socialize with people who were being completely disrespectful and held bigoted attitudes towards my wife, then left. All right, you know what? OP nutted up. I gotta give him credit there. That's the right answer. Fuck your friends. They're terrible people. Once I got home, my wife immediately asked what was wrong. I suppose I must have still looked pissed off over what transpired. I told her how sorry I was over the way I handled the situation and she would no longer have to deal with their mocking and bullying. She looked extremely guilty that I said this and told me I didn't have to sacrifice my happiness and friendships just to please her, and I should continue hanging out with them if I really wanted to. I don't know, I'm kind of embarrassed to admit it, but I started crying like a baby. This woman who'd left everything behind, her life, family, friends, to travel halfway across the world to a completely different country, all on the promise that I would provide her with a better life, thought this entire situation was her fault, and was saying I should prioritize my happiness over her own feelings or well-being. It broke me and made me realize what a selfish prick I was, so I spent over an hour convincing her this wasn't her fault at all, and that she should never believe my feelings are more important than hers. And whenever she is feeling hurt or angry, she should express those feelings without ever thinking it was wrong to do so. I'm very saddened by how long I allowed this to transpire and have a ton of making up to do. Okay, all right, you know what? He's kind of winning my favor. Still not condoning it, but if anybody can healthily be married to someone as much younger as this woman is to him, this might be the guy. Not saying I condone it, but it just sounds like he needs to be able to come to the decisions himself, but when he does come to the decisions, he does the right thing. And you know what? Nobody's perfect. He hasn't done anything completely awful and he made the right choice. And now he's showing empathy, which is very rare for a lot of the men we see on Reddit. Also, I wanted to express my thanks to Reddit. This is the main reason I posted an update. Your guys' comments really helped me take the wool off my eyes and I understand the reality of the situation. We're in a much better place now because of it, and I truly do appreciate everything. Thank you. Let's see if any of these comments are relevant. Oh, interesting. Someone asked if all the guys are single, and OP responded, no, actually. The one who made the sex comment is married, another's engaged, and the rest are single. Yikes, that's terrifying. Someone replied to that comment saying, wow, so that guy was also insulting his own wife with that comment, classy. And OP said, yeah, he treats his wife like shit and cheats on her constantly. Have no respect for that man. Now your ranking in my head has gone down, because why are we hanging out with a cheater? If I learned that any of my friends were cheating on their partner, I'd fucking call them out on it and be like, you're a shitty person, dog. Like, I can't associate myself with cheaters. If you let that shit slide, you're also a fucking bad person. I stand on business with that. Unless that person's being like terribly abused or some shit like that, then the support needs to be in the opposite side. But holy shit, bro. You should have been not hanging out with him a long time ago. All right, well, at least we got to the happy ending. OP definitely has some self-work to do, I think, just in terms of his ability to assess situations that are bad or not, but I feel like he's on the right path. Ooh, if OP knows that ex-friend's wife, he is capable of doing something really funny. You know what? That's some great karma. I'm here for it, bro. Oh, you want to disrespect my wife? Let me tell your wife that you're cheating. Haha, it's a funny joke. Like, comment, subscribe. Hell yeah, I'm here for it.